Hi, Mikal here. In last week's video newsletter, I shared with you my big picture for 2016, and I promised to come back and elaborate on some of the terms that I used in that. So I'll do that starting today in this week's newsletter. And I want to talk about the word depth. Depth versus width. And this will be my definition of those words. It's not right, it's not wrong. It's just my definition of what I mean by those so that you and I can have this kind of conversation, inviting you to look at those two things in your life. So in our lives, through the various stages and in our businesses, there are areas where we might focus on a lot of depth and other areas on more on the width. And then the next week or the next month or the next year, it's other areas in our life that gets a different focuses. So it's not about right or wrong. It's not that depth is more important than width or vice versa. I think it's really about honoring both and really knowing and having the awareness of which one am I focusing on so that I can get the most out of that. So in our society as a whole, there is a great focus on width. So what I mean by width is that of more. So we want more money, more time, more holidays, more cars, better cars, more sex. It's about more and creating like that width of more in our lives. And there is nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong in and of itself with that. On the other side of it is a depth, and here's my view on that, is that at the core of our being, it is far more interested in depth than in width. It is the depth of experience, the depth in our relationships, the depth in our business, in our connections with people, and in the connection with ourselves, with our hearts, and with the essence, the core of who we are. So there are people in this world who have managed to create both. So it is possible to have both width and depth. However, when we're looking at some of the most awakened or enlightened human beings who have walked this earth, most of those actually live very simple lives where there is very little width, but just a massive amount of depth in their lives and in what they're doing and how they're doing and living life. Again, it's not right or wrong. There is space for both. But it's actually very rare to find people who are really successful at both of those. My life personally has been for at least the last 30 years about width. And as I shared last week, this year is going to be particularly focusing on that for me, on the depth side of it. So with this, I'm inviting you to look into the different areas of your life, your relationships, your business, parenting, health, spirituality, and so on. And make a conscious decision what it is that you're after. Is it a depth of experience, going that way? Or is it more about creating more? Is it the depth of your intimacy that you're after? Or is it the width of just more of it? And again, it is possible to have both. But for most of us, it is not actually that easy to create both. And we also live in a world where our beliefs and our conditioning is that the depth of experience you get from the width. So if you're looking at our advertising and our media, you will see that almost all of that is about width. And we go with that because we're kind of conditioned in that way that we expect to get the depth of experience, the depth of fulfillment through the width. Both you and I know that that's not the case. And both you and I know that we can experience tremendous depth without needing any width at all. So again, my invitation to you is just to look at that from your belief point of view. of what it is that's really, really important to you, and then make those conscious decisions to focus that way or that way. And for this not to get too long, I will finish with this here, and I want to come back next week, and I want to elaborate even further on this, because as you've seen a number of times today, when I talk about dips, I don't just go like that, I go like that. And there is something in this that is really, really valuable. And there's some other language that other people are using, and I want to use that next week. And that is the language of living vertically or living horizontally, which is just a different way of talking about living a life with width or a life with depth. So there's more to come. Thank you for listening this week, and I look forward to connecting you next week with even more depth. Thank you for now.